This is Shirley from Shirley's Art Ventures. I am going to show a tutorial of how to take a photograph and make it into a coaster. So join me. This is a fun little process, taking a photograph and making it into a coaster. This is what you need to make a 4x4 coaster. You need some photographs. So these are photographs of one of my paintings. This is actually our farm. Here is our barn before we tore it down. This part of the barn is still standing. This shed is still standing, and this is still standing, and that is my house over there. So I have 4 of these. So I'm going to make 4 coasters out of these 4 photographs. These are 4x6 photographs. I scanned my painting and I got it printed up at Walgreens. Also, you need 4x4 tiles, and I got these tiles at Home Depot. I got 100 tiles for $8, and this was a year ago or so, so I'm not sure what the price is now. And I got my handy dandy little cutter here I've had for years from scrapbooking days. You also will need some Modge Podge and a brush. So this is just the initial step of making your tile. Later on, I will show you how to cover the tile with resin. So you try to find a focal point on your tile. So with this, I will put it on my cutter and I'll find the 4" by 4" part. You know it's 4 inches this way, so you got to figure out the other one. So do I want this as my tile picture, or do I want that as my tile picture? And I think the barn is a better focal point, so I'm going to cut that as my tile picture. So I'm going to line it up carefully and cut my tile photo. So here is my tile photo of my barn, and here is my tile, and all we do is we Modge Podge these together. So this Modge Podge I've had for a while. I'm going to shake it up, get all the gooeys out of it, because you know it's been sitting around, but you know we had some of this at work and it sat around for years and it actually was able to be used. So you just had to pull off the stuff that's already kind of hardened. It's more rubbery than hard. So you gotta put a thin layer of Modge Podge onto your tile. And this is going to stick your photo down. Now, I did try doing the whole coaster with Modge Podge, and I found that it left veining in it due to the brush strokes, and I didn't like that, and plus it didn't dome. So doming your coaster is the best thing to do, and you dome your coaster by using a doming resin. And once this gets dry, we will dome our coasters, and then when that's dry, then you got to put little feet onto your coasters, because they need to set in if they need to set on a table, then you don't want them to scratch the table. So this is just the initial step, and you make sure you get it on straight, because once you get it on, it's not going to move. And make sure you get it under the corners and get the corners stuck down really well, because once you start working with the resin and the corners are sticking up, it's not going to stick down. So sometimes if it is sticking up, what you can do is you can put wax paper on here and weight it down, and that will pull the corners down. So you let this dry for a half a day or so, and then you can go on and do the resin step. So here is step 1 of making the coasters. So we'll show you step 2 later. Once the picture is dried on, it's important to turn your tile over and put some painter's tape on the back, because when you put the resin on the tile, you're going to put it over the side of the tile. So it's going to drip over the side, and it'll put drips on the back. So it's important to cover the back with painter's tape, or it's really hard to get the drips off. So here is some brand new painter's tape that just came in the mail just a little while ago. So I am going to show you how to cover the back, and this is what I found to be the easiest way. So you just take your painter's tape and lay it along the edge of the back and bring it across, and then just keep going across and kind of go off the sides, because then it's easier to cut it back than it is to add. So just cover the whole back of your tile. And I tried just going around the outside with a painter's tape, but then that sometimes resin would seep over that, and then it would like even connect right down and glue right into the back of the tile. And you don't want that. You just, you want to be able to peel this off. And I found that I will do my resin pour the night before, and when I get up in the morning, I will go and I'll peel off all the back. The resin is not totally cured yet, so it still has enough flexibility that you can get the painter's tape off. So this side here, I need to put a layer of painter's tape along this side. And then the easiest way to trim this after you get all your painter's tape on, make sure it's all nice and flat on the bottom, is you turn it over. And this is a blank tile right now because I already did all my tiles before with the painter's tape. So I take my scissors and just trim along the edge, and it trims perfectly. At first I was trying to tear it to do it perfectly, but if you do it this way, it just trims perfectly. So here is my tile covered with painter's tape, and it's important to just push it down too, because you want your edges to be firm, because you don't want that resin to go underneath.
Some supplies you need for the resin pour include wax paper,
there you
some
have
measuring
it.
cups.
So I'll be coming back and I'll
these
show
are
you
the solo
pour.
cups. You also need gloves and something to stir with. So I use just a plastic knife to do my stirring with. So you're going to start off, and of course you need your resin. This is Envirotex Light. I got it off of Amazon. This is a gallon set, and I've had this for several months. One is going to be slightly yellow. So there's two parts to the resin, the resin and the hardener. So you need to pour equal parts out into your measuring cups. I use these little solo cups, and I kind of guesstimate my equal parts. I go up to one of the letters in the inside of the cups, and I've been doing this for quite a while, and it works quite well for me. So here is the resin. Oh, that was the hardener, and now I'm going to be pouring out the resin. So once you get these poured out, you're going to combine them together. So I'm pouring out the resin now, and then I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to take the substance from one cup and pour it into the other cup. And you try to get all the parts out of it. I'm going to be scraping along the edges here, so you're going to hear that scrape, 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 scrape. But you don't want to waste any resin. The resin is fairly pricey, and if you waste it, it's even more pricey. So with this process that we're doing with the tiles, there's going to be some natural waste to the resin, because it's going to go off the edges of the tile, because you need to cover the edges, and I've been laying it out so it catches into something. So then you stir. You go according to the direction. This resin has you stirring for 2 minutes, and when you stir, you go around the outside to make sure you clear off all the resin. Once you stir it for 2 minutes, you take it from one cup and you pour it back into the other cup. Some resins will have you pour it into a third cup, but I've been just pouring it back into the first cup, and that has been working just fine for me. And I try to get everything out of the cup because I don't want to waste any more resin than possible. And this sometimes takes a little while. So you see I'm getting out all the little corners and everything. It is fairly thick. It's kind of like a honey consistency. And there's bubbles in there too. It produces its own bubbles. So you do have to get rid of those bubbles at some time. So with this resin, I need to stir another 1 minute. I set my timer up on my stove to stir. And when it goes off then I quit. So that resin is ready to go. So now I'm going to get my molds ready. You see my tile is ready to go.
Yep.
I set a mold down here for drips to catch in. So my tile is ready. I have some little cups to set my tile up on to raise it up over the surface so when it drips down, it will drip off of the tile. I discovered if I put the resin mold underneath the tile, it doesn't go all over, and hoping I can use some of that resin from those drips into something else. So I pour my resin onto my tile, and then I just spread it out using while I'm using my knife here, or your stirrer or whatever works. It's important to spread it over the sides of your tile so the sides have the resin coating. In doing that, your resin is going to go around the bottom of the tile, and that's why you tape it up, because it's going to start dripping off the bottom. And you don't want those drips to harden, because once they get hardened, you cannot get them off unless you grind them. That is why you put the tape on initially, very tight around the edges so the resin doesn't seep underneath the tape. And you will take your knife here and you go around the sides of your tile and also underneath to get rid of the drips. Then this is a fun part. You take your zapper, which is a culinary tool, and you zap your resin. That will get rid.
It's now the next morning, and I'm going to show the results of our coaster. So this was poured last night, and if you look, it has a nice sheen on it. The pour looks pretty good. There's a little missing there. It's supposed to go down over all the sides. It's not bad. Here's the back. You see the little lumps there, and this is the thing it was poured onto. You know, there's always runoff. So I can actually, since this was a mold, a resin mold, I can actually pull off the runoff, and I can maybe save this and use this later. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take off the backing. This is the tape that we put on. So you do it at this time, a few hours in, it's easier to pull off. And you can pull off the drips. Otherwise, it'll become very hard. Right now, it's kind of rubbery in feeling. And I used to have to take this up to the grinder and grind off the drips because they were very hard. They're hard like glass. And I guess you really don't need all the tape that I put on, because I found out it mainly drips just around the side. So in doing this yourself, you can, you know, cut back on the tape. And it does take a little while to pull off all the tape. But if you wait too long, the resin will be so hard it embeds in there and you just can't get it off. You have to grind it down. So I found out waiting overnight and pulling off the tape works the best. So there you have it. Just need to add the feet to our little coaster and we will be done.